Right here I have the super fast Meike 50mm f1.2 L mount for the LUMIX S5. This is wide open, 1.2.
You can't go home. You can't go home. But you can find another shelter you can call your own. You can't push time. You can't push time. But you can ride out every wave like an alibi. Your past won't leave. Your past won't leave. It'll stay with them like it stays with me.
One of the things when I went to start using this Meike 50mm f1.2 is I don't know if I used it in the right setting. Now this is definitely a photography lens, and I am taking this fully from a video perspective, and is this good for video? And yes, it is good for video. However, like I said, the way I approached it, I think for a future video, I think I'll probably approach it a little bit differently and have more people in the video, because this is definitely like a portrait lens. So I think some kind of like narrative or storytelling video with actual, characters, I think might be a good test for this lens. And I just wanted to say thank you to Meike for sending me this 50mm f1.2 for the LUMIX S5. I had a great time checking it out. It's a great lens, and I do highly recommend it. Now this lens is fully manual. You're not going to have any automatic settings, so forget about any autofocus, which really doesn't work anyway. But forget about any autofocus, you're fully manual, and I actually kind of like that because it gives you a lot of control over the lens. Now this is a really fast lens for a full frame camera at f1.2 max aperture, and having that wide open allows for some like really creative type shots. Now I know depth of field can be overused, especially on YouTube, and there's something to be said with not having your background totally blown out, especially if you're doing like an interview. It's a very narrow focus area, so you might not want to be wide open for some of those different types of settings, but you can get some really creative shots being wide open at f1.2. And then the minimum aperture is going to be f22, and that's all manual. So you have the ring right here, it's all manual. Focus wise, there's not a big focus pull on here, so you're able to, especially for video, you're able to hit that focus pretty quickly, if not fly right by where you want to focus at. I had that happen a couple times where I just flew right by it. And I much prefer something like this over like a focus by wire lens. Those I have a lot of trouble with actually, but this one being fully manual and it's not a very big focus pull, you can actually hit it pretty quick. Now the filter size is 67mm, which is kind of nice because if you are using some of the other LUMIX primes, like the S series LUMIX primes, those are all 67mm as well. So if you invest in filters that are 67mm, for example right here, then it'll fit all of these different lenses. Even the LUMIX 20 to 60mm kit lens, that's 67mm thread as well. So really, if you go that route, you're pretty much set for filters. Now this lens is a nice metal construction, so I mean it feels solid. Like it is a heavy lens. The LUMIX S5 is a pretty small camera, pretty light, pretty low key. Put this lens on, it's gonna add some weight to it. I don't know if this is gonna be the best like travel lens for you, especially on the S5, but if you're doing any type of tripod work, or like I said, I mean, it's a photography lens really. I don't talk about photography on this channel, but I can see where having this lens for photography actually wouldn't be so bad. But it is a very hefty lens. I mean, it's heavy, so if you have it on any type of rig, I mean, you're gonna wanna be lifting some weights. Do you even lift, bro? One of the things I noticed while using this lens is that the focus distance is not very close. You're not gonna be able to be very close to whatever or whoever your subject is. You're gonna wanna take that into consideration. This is definitely not like a macro lens, so you're not gonna be able to get super close and like right on your subject. you're gonna have to be a ways away because it does not have a close focus distance. A couple things I really like about this lens, like I said earlier, it's fully manual, and I just feel like having a fully manual lens, you just have so much control over the camera. Maybe it makes you feel like a real cinematographer or something. I like the short focus throw, and then, you know, switching through the different apertures. You just have so much control over it. Now, one of the things with the focus throw is that it is very, very touchy. So, I mean, you could just barely bump it and you'll be out of focus. So one of the things I actually had to do is, like, when normally I shoot, you know, with the camera here and I'm holding the lens, but one of the things I actually had to do was make sure that I took my hand and fingers off of the focus ring so that I didn't accidentally bump it. And I think that's where this being a photo lens over a video lens really kind of changes the dynamic of how you shoot, because for video you will bump that focus ring if you don't take your hand off it. So that is something to take into consideration. It's one of the things that I learned very quickly, is that I needed to remove my fingers from that focus ring. You know, normally I'm right on that focus ring, keep my fingers on it, but I had to take it off just because I was bumping it a little bit too much, especially when it's wide open at 1.2. That focus range is just so narrow that if you bump it, you're going out. I really like the full metal construction. Like I said, it just feels solid. And if you're looking for a little heavier lens for video, sometimes having a little heavier setup for video, you have a little bit more control over handheld shots. And I also love that it has a 67mm thread on here for filters, because that's a lot of the filters I have for some of the other lenses for my S5. Would I recommend this lens? Yes, I do recommend this lens. However, remember, if you're shooting video with the S5, this is a photography lens, so it's going to act like a photography lens. But with that being said, I really think you'd be able to get some awesome video footage, especially like portrait style work. I think this would be a great lens for some of that if you're shooting video. There's not going to be any IBIS built into this lens, but I think the S5 is able to control that shake enough where you're not getting a ton with this. So yes, I would recommend the Meike 50mm f1.2 for video shooters, for LUMIX S5 video shooters. Check it out, because this is a very well priced lens if you're looking for a fast prime. Again, Mikey, thank you for sending me the 50mm f1.2. It's been fun to work with, and I'm looking forward to getting some more footage with it. And like I said, I think I want to change up how I make a video with it and actually use some characters and maybe put like a little narrative together. Let me know if you have any extra questions down in the comments. We can get the conversation started down there. If you have time, maybe stick around, watch one of these videos that's popping up on your screen right here. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.